And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Jodi James, who's going to be speaking with us about healing with cannabis.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. It's pretty exciting to be, first of all, back in person, and secondly, to be back here. I have been to this fellowship space on many occasions. As a speaker, we've used the space for events, and so I feel very at home here. And so it was probably easier to go ahead and start when I started putting down what today's discussion, presentation, talk, sermon would be about. It was easy to kind of come from the heart because I feel so comfortable with you folks. Not everybody knows that when I was 19 years old, I had a slip and fall accident on ice up north. The first thing I knew is I had put a glass pop bottle through my hand. I was delivering a pizza. And remember when 2 liters were glass? So the first thing I knew is that I was bleeding. And so it was kind of critical. And so I was very surprised when I woke up the next morning and couldn't move. So in addition to the damage that I had done with my hand, I had also done a lot of critical damage to my back. I had nerve damage. I had torn muscles. And over the next 18 months, I would go through hell. It was constant at the doctor. It was a year of physical therapy. And at the end, they told me that I would never work again and I would never have a pain-free day. So, and that was after the best doctors in the state of Ohio, which of course was a workman's comp state, right? We had the auto industry. And so they were doing the best that they could. And while I was at this rehabilitation center where they were trying to figure out what the minimum amount of drugs I would be able to sustain the rest of my life with, and the maximum amount of time I would be able to sit and stand without assistance. Some of you may know people like that. The people that were around me in this rehab center were using marijuana illegally. And so I did. I was not a kid, 19. I knew what marijuana was, but I didn't know marijuana like medicine. And so when I added cannabis to my routine, it was marijuana then, it's cannabis now. You'll get into that later. When I added marijuana to my routine, I found that I needed less pharmaceutical intervention. Not only did I need less pharmaceutical intervention, I was more elevated and I wasn't so depressed. And using less of the pharmaceutical drugs meant that some of the things that come along with pharmaceutical drugs, like not being able to use the bathroom, like additional pain, like drowsiness. You know, I'm a little embarrassed to talk about the Vicodin hustle, but some of you might know what I'm talking about. Pop a Vicodin. I haven't felt good in 2 days. I've just taken a Vicodin and I feel good for about 25 minutes. And get me while I'm feeling good. People don't think about me like that, but that was who I was at 19. By 1995, I had moved to Brevard County, and some of you will remember the 1995 Hemp Fest here in Brevard County. And I had a not in my America moment. This is 1995. There are groups of people together for the sole purpose of trying to change the law. And at this point, I know that this plant has healed me. I have gone from never working again to never having a pain-free day. But I have manageable pain days. And now I'm 50. So, you know, who expects to have a lot of pain-free days at 50? But when I had that not in my America moment in 1995 that led us on this journey, I was very surprised to learn that what was keeping cannabis from people had nothing to do with the plant itself and everything to do with politics. As I got to know the plant and realized what a healing plant it was It was impossible to do anything else. Not only was the very fiber of our liberty at stake, which is what I found when I tried to exercise the First Amendment and couldn't, but there was this healing plant that was available to us that everyone should be able to take part in. And it was really challenging for me. I'd been raised Baptist. I'm sorry, we can move on. But it was really cool when I found out that cannabis, the seed of the cannabis, was a source of protein. Because in Genesis 1:29 says, I shall give you every herb bearing seed, and for you it shall be meat. This is not the devil's herb. But in 1995, in 2000, having the ability to get out and say that was a ministry. And I might add, it was a ministry that many of the people who are watching today supported, not the least of which is our son, Josh, who's watching as FL Can. Wasn't always easy being my kid. But now we were starting to talk about a plant that would feed us. Its fiber will clothe us. Its flower is medicine for us. And planting it has a bioremediation effect for our earth. So it was funny. I was at a flea market here in Brevard County in the early days talking about cannabis. And this gentleman came up who was a Seminole, and I appreciated your tribute to the Seminole tribe and all of the things that they have done for this state and planet. And he said, well, of course, cannabis has a bioremediation effect. All of the Indians know that reedy plants are for cleansing the blood, and not just the blood of people, but the blood of the planet. Duh. You know, it was very interesting to kind of watch this, because while this gentleman who knew from tradition that of course this was a healing plant, again, we had the politics happening. And I was never able to be congruent. And I find that that's even challenging today. But it was interesting because, again, in my high and lofty thoughts, I'm like, hey, you know what? This is the tree of life that has 12 kinds of fruits. And yet it is being put away in a place where we can't get to it. And the people who are supposed to know, in 1999, the director of drug control, James McDonough, said to us at a rally where we were kind of, being a pain in his butt. He said, medical marijuana is akin to folklore, witchcraft, and home remedy. We celebrated the Year of the Witch. But, I came to find out that what he was saying was that medicine in this country was made by men and women in lab coats, in sterile environment, and they were made in pure, precise, and predictable doses, and that's what we called medicine. And so really everything else is kind of folklore, home remedy, and bless a witch. But the challenge is, because remember, I believe myself to be a very spiritual being. I was raised in a church where where that's where we went. And so this was very challenging to me. Suddenly being this marijuana person, I mentioned the devil's lettuce, right? So I found myself in a church in Tallahassee, and I think this is kind of hilarious. I wandered in, it was a Pentecostal space, and I was there. And of course, I'm in Tallahassee working with the legislative session. I am the president of Florida Cannabis Action Network now, newly elected. Can you believe that I have worked with Cannabis Action Network for over 25 years and I've only been on the board for 2? Hey, volunteering is important. You people know that. No one knows that better than you guys. So I wander into this church because it's a Sunday morning and I feel like worshiping God. And I will tell you, thank you for your beautiful, the romantic promenade. I had an opportunity to talk to my God and appreciate the reverence of the universe. It made me cry a little bit. So imagine this stranger walks in. Now everybody else is in dresses because this is a Pentecostal church, right? Because we're fixing to get down. And I'm in slacks. So this person in slacks wanders in off the street. And you start the praise and worship, and I just start to bawl. The tears are just flowing down my face. And I'm doing my thing because I really like good praise and worship. The tears are just flowing down my face. Well, everybody is very concerned about me at this point. She's carrying a burden. Well, I'm not carrying a burden at all. This is joy, boo. So the minister does what ministers do, and we're very grateful for what ministers do. And then they start calling people up for prayer. And these are people who truly believe in the power of God to come in and do something. And the first little lady gets up there, and she's got glaucoma. And she is praying for God to clear her glaucoma. And the next man, he's got pain. And the next man, he's got Parkinson's. And now I'm really crying because in my pocket is what they are crying out for. And because of the politics, to help them is a felony. So here we are. Cannabis is legal. Oh, I say well, all cannabis is legal for somebody, and some cannabis is illegal like dynamite. But at this point in time, the study of cannabis is really more alchemy than it is science. And while we have over-the-counter preparations of cannabis, and we have, by recommendation, cannabis, the fact of the matter is we all need access to this plant. Because again, more alchemy than science. It may still be folklore and home remedy. Somebody you know is suffering with anxiety. Someone you know has a problem with their sleep. And someone you know is suffering with chronic pain. And today, it is still politics over the plant. And that's why I'm still doing this. The over-the-counter remedies that are available exploit most and many of the known cannabinoids. However, a lot of them are being cooked up in laboratories. The products that you are seeing on the shelf at the gas station is not being regulated by anyone. It is astounding to me that in 2022, I am looking at grown people and I'm saying, don't you remember when we said don't take candy from strangers? But really, that's kind of one of our programs right now with Florida Cannabis Action Network. We're calling it Safety First. We need safe places where people can be. And right now there is very few safe places where you can go and learn about the medicine. We are still subject to arrest if we have the wrong cannabis on us. I said to my husband the other day, I said, misdemeanor arrests are down. Felony arrests are up. Because that gummy that you got from Sally that sat in the bottom of your purse that is now hard as a rock is still a felony. That vape cartridge that you thought was so slick that you can take anywhere, if they discover that it has the wrong kind of THC in it, are you serious? The wrong kind of THC? If it has the wrong kind of THC in it, it's a felony. If it has the other kind of THC in it, it is probably harmful to you at some level because it's being cooked up in a laboratory. So I'm still back at the day where we said Miss Manners and we would talk to people about Miss Mary Jane Manners, right? That's how, using cannabis and being successful with it. Miss Mary Jane Manners, she would say, when in doubt, break off a little piece, put it in your pipe and smoke it. And now we have to worry about QR codes. And we have to worry even to the point of what they are growing in the licensed dispensaries. They are profit driven. And because these companies are entirely profit driven, the products that might be the most beneficial to the patient for which the program is designed to serve may not be enough profit to maintain that SKU. And so our patients are suffering. Florida Cannabis Action Network, which is the organization that I have been privileged to volunteer for since 1995, is working very hard to make sure that we educate the electorate. We want to make sure that among the lists of things that you are checking, whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, a no party affiliate or one of our minor parties, that you are making sure that at the end of the day that you are registered to vote. One of the things that we're encouraging right now, because you can still register to change your voter registration between now and I think it's I had it at the top of my mind, about 2 more weeks that you can register before the primary. If you have not checked your voter registration form in a while, maybe your signature's changed. It doesn't hurt. I mentioned that guy with Parkinson's, that guy that was just diagnosed with a neuromuscular disorder, his signature might not be the same. And I don't put a heart over my I anymore in Jodi. So if you know that your voter registration has changed, let's make sure that we're doing that. But let's get back to what's safe. The whole plant flower, unadulterated, a seed in the ground that has not been contaminated, is going to come out and be a product that is going to be good for your health and healing. There are a number of products out there where the manufacturer believes that. So make sure that you are demanding a plant that is grown like organic. If somebody tells you they have an organic plant, they don't understand what organic is, or they're lying to you because it's not federally legal. So you can apply organic standards. You cannot get an organic certification. The products that are out there, your best bet, if you're not subject to a drug test, is to look for whole plant. Even a little bit of THC, which is that big chemical that divides the over-the-counter from the by recommendation, is that THC delta 9 molecule. Even a little bit of THC is going to help the plant work better. I loved the one reading where we were talking about coming together and to the one, maybe it was the Buddha that we were hearing, coming together as one with a religion or a spirituality that we can all embrace. And I believe that the spirituality of healing should certainly be something that we should put in there. And cannabis, for me at least, has been that road. I find the people that inspire me are the ones who have broken the law, which I find to be an interesting quagmire. But certainly there are a lot of people out there who are assuring that people who are poor still have access to this medicine. There are a lot of people out there who are growing a little bit for themselves or for someone that they love. And those days we're going to rapidly see the people who are profiting from this try to pursue those folks more. We're seeing more arrests again. So it's not time yet to stop on this particular social justice front. We still have people being arrested for marijuana. The U.S. is looking at this woman in Russia, the basketball player who was arrested in Russia. And yet we have tens of thousands of people being arrested every day in Florida for that too. So let's not forget those people. If you are someone who is finding that they have trouble with sleep or anxiety or pain, there certainly is healing for us in this plant. I would be remiss if I didn't do a shout out to one of our partners who is doing hemp for water. This plant loves phosphate and nitrate. And so we are rapidly working to get grants to try to plant the hemp plant near or at water sources so that we can begin helping with remediation. Since the federal guidelines have changed, those kind of things are possible. Again, all CBD products and minor cannabinoid products are legal in the state of Florida. If you still have drug testing, that's something that we want to consider, and you want to make sure that your drug testing institute. But if we're really going to go out and do the work that we are supposed to do in this planet, the first thing you have to do is heal yourself. And so making sure that you have this plant of great renown, that be perhaps the tree of life that brings forth something that we can eat, something that we can wear, a shelter that we can create. It will remediate the damage that we've done in the past. Its flowers will heal us. And did I mention it's kind of fun? Thank you very much for listening to how I believe cannabis is the plant of healing. It's my pleasure to be here with you today.